This is the Brett Snodgrass Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. Make sure you go over to YouTube and subscribe to the Brett Snodgrass channel so you get all the videos that come out each and every week. I have Matt Robertson on the podcast with me today, and Matt Robertson works for Agape International Missions, which they focus on human and sex trafficking. They're mostly in the area of Cambodia. They have just entered Belize, and they are trying to rescue victims, girls and boys, from this terrible, dark, evil industry of sex and human trafficking. This is a pretty real podcast. It's raw. It's rated PG-13. So make sure you guys have a heart posture coming into this interview with Matt Robertson as he talks about some deep and gory details in the human and sex trafficking industry. There is a huge need for this, guys. So I beg you to listen to Matt. And this organization is awesome. It's aimfree.org. Now I want to introduce you to Matt Robertson. What's going on, Matt?
How you doing, Brett? Good to see you.
You too, man. I'm just really looking forward to this podcast. I mean, this is a topic that's been on my heart. I'm sure it's just becoming more aware, human trafficking, sex trafficking, and you are working with, for the last 40 years, Agape International Missions, and really excited about this, man. So
yeah, me too. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. I know you've been in other organizations throughout your life, World Vision, Habitat for Humanity, and it seems like you have this servant heart. But I always like to ask this question just kind of at the beginning, just to get a little summary about who is Matt Robertson.
Well, I'm a husband. I've been married 26 years to my beautiful wife, Shela, a father. I've got two great kids, 21 and 19. I like to snowboard in the winter and surf in the summer. And yeah, love the outdoors and just enjoying God's beautiful creation. Yeah, and love to travel and lived overseas, a number of different countries. Love to explore new cultures and get to know people and contexts. And I don't sit still easily, so I'm usually bouncing around all over the place, and sometimes that includes hopping on a plane, and but just getting out and meeting people and loving on people and sharing what God's doing wherever it is, and now I get to share what God's doing through AIM, so it's an honor.
Yeah definitely. Was there a certain point, you kind of tell your testimony? Have you always been someone that grew up in the church, loved God, or was there a transformation at some point in your heart, right? Again, you've always kind of served with these types of organizations that helped people that sometimes people forget about, right? So.
Yeah, so I did. I grew up in the church. My mom was actually a gospel singer, recording artist back in the 70s and 80s. So yeah, I grew up exposed to the church and to Christian music scene and Christianity. And but it really wasn't until high school. In my youth group, I was living in the Bay Area at the time. And our youth pastor was just really strong about owning our faith and developing our own faith. And so I think that was really for me kind of an awakening of, I need to have my own faith. I can't depend or rely upon, my mom's faith. My parents were divorced, so my mom was raising me. I can't depend and rely upon her faith and upon, what I've grown up with, and I need to own it. And so that really started, I think, a journey of owning my relationship with Christ, and in high school and throughout college. And I think like a lot of us, I wandered from my faith and really kind of had a crisis of faith in college, but then came back to it. I did a summer missions trip to Mexico when I was in college, and really experienced God in that time in down in Mexico, and true joy seeing kids playing in mud, and big potholes in the road. And I realized they were happier than I was. They had more pure joy than I did, living in California, manicured lawns, carpet on the floor, all those little things that we take for granted. They were happier than I was. And so that was a great awakening for me as well. So it's definitely been a journey. And still on a journey, but
Yeah. You never reach that destination. And like you said, we're all on this journey trying to pursue, encounter God and His calling for our life, and His calling for your life during this season is working with Agape International Missions. AIM is for short, aimfree.org. If you guys want to check that out, you are the Director of Relational Advancement. And we can, exactly what that means. Sometimes titles we get tripped up on. But first, before we talk about kind of what you do there, tell me, when you first heard of human trafficking, the darkness of it all, was there a point where you saw this and you were like, wow? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I was missions pastor at a church in Texas, and we were doing work in northern Vietnam, remote parts of northern Vietnam, doing community development work. And we would go into these villages where children were missing. And one day the children were there, the next day they were gone. And as we got to, talk with people in the villages, and we found out that that guys were coming across the border, very porous border, from China, and stealing kids out of villages, primarily girls, out of villages in northern Vietnam. Because of the one-child policy in China, there was not enough girls, not enough brides. And so they were literally going in, taking these girls out of these villages and trafficking them into China. And that's when I was really first exposed to it. I'd heard about it. I think my heart had been, kind of sensitive to it and open to it. But that's when I first really kind of experienced it firsthand, that, one day there were children in this village, and the next day they're gone. And so it was a few years later, I was on staff at a church here in the Sacramento area, Bayside Church, a large church that I was part of a task force that was looking at what is Bayside, and really the church's role and responsibility in fighting this evil of human trafficking. And so we looked at a number of different partners. AIM was one, a couple other organizations. I got to travel to some different countries and look at the work and kind of vet this work from the outside. And we picked AIM as one of our primary partners to join us in this fight. So I got to know the organization really well, our founders, Don and Bridget Brewster. We did a number of events for AIM. And so I really got to kick the tires on it and see it from the outside, and fell in love with the organization, the excellence of work. I got to go to Cambodia, and primarily where we work, and see the work firsthand. And that's really what started my journey of working with AIM.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think when you got to see some of this firsthand? I was listening to a podcast the other day, and someone was describing a situation about a man who was wearing a $2,000 suit, and he was walking by a pond, and there was a child drowning. And they described, if you were that man in that $2,000 suit, would you save the child from drowning, or would you not save the child because you didn't want to get your suit dirty and you're worried about your suit? Well, the answer is, you'd probably be a monster not to worry about your suit, not to save the child. But we're dealing with that all around us, but we just don't see it. We just don't experience it, right? So what was that? It was like the firsthand personal experience. Was that the thing that's like, wow, we got to do something, rather than maybe watching it from afar?
I think it was that firsthand personal experience. And then, a few years later, being able to translate that into action. Initially, Bayside Church, helping Bayside Church partner more strongly with AIM, and then, getting directly involved working with AIM. I'll be honest with you, my first trip to Cambodia, I'd heard about foreigners, foreign pedophiles, men from other countries traveling to Cambodia to have sex with children. And when I was on the streets of Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia, you see men, older, foreign guys, obviously taller, bigger build, from whatever country. A lot of times it's America, unfortunately, but other countries as well. You see grown men by themselves walking around the streets of Phnom Penh, and you know why they're there.
Mm.
And this anger rose up inside of me.
Mm.
As a father, as a dad of a girl, um, I wanted to go punch these guys out.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what are you doing here? Um, Sorry.
No.
Um,
Yeah.
but I realized I had some anger issues I had to deal with. But also that, Christ died for everybody. Christ died for those guys.
Mm.
Christ died for the girls that we rescue, and the families that traffic children. And we can get into that a little bit more as well. And so I think, again, part of the journey, it's like going up and punching these guys out in the name of Christ isn't the way to go about it. But, you experience all these emotions, and you have to make a decision at some point. It's like, am I going to jump in? Am I going to get involved in the best way that I can?
Yeah.
Or am I just going to turn a blind eye to this and not pay attention to what's going on?
Yeah. Exactly. And you got to just kind of manage that, because it's a very, very big problem. I want to talk about how big it is.
Yeah.
But I want to just describe human trafficking kind of number one. So I think that this, probably people have seen the movie Taken with Liam Neeson, and it was an American girl who got kidnapped, taken, was going to be sold into sex trafficking. And a lot of times that's what people see as sex trafficking: someone getting kidnapped, put into a van, and taken away from their family. But I want to hear your description of what really is human trafficking, and what are you seeing really happening, and is that a true picture?
I mean, it is a picture of a percentage of trafficking that happens. Sometimes it is girls being kidnapped. Sometimes it's girls being coerced, whether it's here at a party in Rockland, California, or whether it's girls being coerced, or men. Human trafficking takes many faces. It's not just for sex. Sometimes it's for labor, people being coerced, promised a job, where they're taken somewhere else, their passports are taken away, and they're basically stuck in this situation, enslaved. Again, whether it's for sex or for work. What we see a lot in more impoverished countries, in Cambodia where we're working, and now we've just started work in Belize, is that unfortunately families are trafficking their own children. It happens here in the U.S. as well. Sometimes it's just it's just poverty, and families don't have a way to provide for their children, and so trafficking or selling one child to help feed the other 4 or 5 children. Sometimes it's because the parents, the mom or dad, are addicted to drugs, or sometimes we've seen in Cambodia, unfortunately, it just becomes such a normal part of the culture. They want a new flat screen TV. They might traffic one of their children. So it does take many different faces, and it's a very complex issue. But we're seeing some good results. We're seeing some good progress. So that's the bright side of it.
Yeah. No. Thank you. So I want to just ask about how big the need is. I think on your website you talk about how big is this? I mean, a lot of people aren't even aware of this. This might be the first time that they've maybe not have heard of it, but it's becoming real. But how large is this? I mean, you guys are in Cambodia, just entered Belize, but this is a world thing, right? It happens in America too. But
it is.
You talked about that.
It's a $1 billion industry. So if you put together the record profits of IBM, Microsoft, Starbucks, all the big Nike, all the big companies, you put all of their record profits together, it doesn't even touch the profits of the money that's being made in human trafficking. And part of it is because it's easy to disguise. You can put somebody in a van, transport them away. You can even fly. There's a lot of times people are flying with young girls, and the girls are so in fear, and maybe they're drugged up that the people on the airplane, the stewardesses, whomever, they may not even recognize that this person is being trafficked. And a lot of traffickers that were once involved in drug trafficking are now switching over to human trafficking, because you can only sell drugs once, right? But unfortunately, you can sell a human multiple times. And so it has become a worldwide, global, billion-dollar industry.
Yeah. And I was going to ask about that. Sometimes you see, again, some of the documentaries or films about people bringing over drugs in the airplanes. They're flying to wherever, getting the drugs, bringing it here, like cocaine. And you're seeing that this the next, right? And it could be the biggest organized modern slavery crime, organized crime, right? But besides
Yeah.
drugs, you think this is it?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. And like, like we said, it is a global issue. It's a billion-dollar issue. And wherever you have, corrupt, politicians and corrupt law enforcement that are willing to turn a blind eye, it's happening in the open. It's happening in the cover of darkness. It's happening across porous borders. Wherever there is, wherever there is an opportunity for this to happen, it's happening. So, yeah.
Wow. Can you describe a little bit about what AIM does? So just kind of go into that. You rescue victims of human trafficking, but can you describe the process of what you do?
Yeah. So what has emerged for us over 17 years of working in Cambodia, is a holistic model addressing this issue. So it starts with us at prevention. We want to prevent this from ever happening. So we do a lot of community outreach in Cambodia. Now we're starting this in Belize, working within communities where trafficking is a problem, raising awareness. We do kids clubs for children that are at risk of being trafficked, giving them a safe place to play, and experience childhood and hear about the love of Christ, also get to know their families. We planted a church in Svaipak, Cambodia, which Svaipak was once an epicenter for child sex trafficking, as talked about on CNN and ABC News Nightline and other documentaries that have been made. We planted a church there to put a stake in the ground and say this is going to stop. And the church is now doing outreach. We started a school to educate at-risk children, because if they can have an education and their parents see them as having value, and that we know of, none of the children in our school, there's about 600 kids in our school right now, none of those kids are being trafficked because they're receiving an education. So it really starts with prevention. But then for girls that are being trafficked, we have a SWAT team. We go in and we rescue, we kick down doors, and rescue girls. And sometimes older women are caught up in it too, but it's primarily young girls that are being trafficked. We rescue them. We arrest the traffickers as well. And we work with the Cambodian police and anti-trafficking task force. We have full legal authority to go in and do that. And then when those girls, once those girls are rescued, they go to one of our restoration homes. We now have 3 places where they can go. One is a restoration home for younger girls, or transition home for older girls, depending on their age. The first thing that happens when those girls enter that restoration home is that we throw them a princess party. We want them to know that they are loved and valued, and that they are a cherished daughter of the king. They may not know who that king is yet, but they'll get to know that king, King of Kings, through the love of our staff, unconditional love of our staff, that care for them, provide counseling, therapy, healing, education. We help catch them up in school if they've fallen behind. And then when they're old enough, we prepare them for their next step. So it starts with rescue, then restoration, and then we work on reintegration or empowerment, where we provide life skills and job skills training for these girls so that they can have a future. They don't have to go back into the life. And a lot of those girls end up working with us in our employment centers, making clothing, jewelry, bracelets, handbags that we sell all over the world. We work with churches and businesses. A lot of churches will order their T-shirts for vacation Bible schools or summer camps through us. So the girls do all that sewing, screen printing. And I've got example of that too. So this is a company that works with us called Trail Gear down in Fresno, California. They work with us to print all their t-shirts. And what's cool is that every item comes with a tag with the girl's name written on it that's made it.
Wow.
And so it makes it very, very, very personal, very special. And so that's one way that we work with churches, we work with businesses to, print their gear, t-shirts, polos, things like that. So it not only helps get out the story of AIM and what's going on, but it also helps provide a job for these survivors and helps keep them out of that life.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Just the process behind it. I want to ask, like, how much does this cost to rescue one person, to put them in the restoration house, transition house, for how long? How long are they in the restoration house too? So how long, and then how much does this cost?
Yeah, great question. So the initial rescue costs about $1,000. So a typical raid will cost us around $5,000 to, that includes all the investigation that goes in ahead of time, getting that court order, going in, executing the raid, arresting those traffickers, all of that work that goes into that. And on average, we rescue about 5 girls per raid. So on average, it costs us about $1,000 to rescue a girl out of sex trafficking. And then from there, the difficult work of restoration happens. Again, that counseling, therapy, providing them a safe place, food, education. We have social workers that work with them. We have, cooks and cleaners in the restoration homes and house moms that love on them. So that journey from rescue to restoration to the initial kind of reintegration, on average, it takes about a year to 18 months. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer. Girls are welcome to stay with us as long as they can. And that journey costs around $23,000 for a survivor. Again, these are, averages, but over the course of 17 years, we've seen that this is what it costs us to, one, rescue, but then also provide that restoration and empowerment to help reintegrate them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the criminals behind this human trafficking, so you talked about putting them in jail. Is like in Cambodia, for example, is there a certain amount of time on average that they might be in jail, or what is that? Do you know what that looks like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I can certainly find it out. This has been years of work of, strengthening the laws, other organizations that we work with at the kind of the legal judicial level, strengthening the laws, but then also enforcing the laws. So that's another issue that we face with human trafficking, is that there may be laws on the books, but they're not being enforced. And so do the police, does the community of, judges and police officers and prosecutors, are they all part of this movement together to see this thing end? And we've seen that over years of work in Cambodia, that it's working. So it's actually a miracle that, not only can we rescue these girls, but we go and we arrest the traffickers. They're actually put in prison, and they're sentenced based on the how long they've been trafficking, or how big of an issue this is. So it depends, but I'm not sure exactly, those sentences, but yeah.
No, thanks. Thank you for that. So right now you're in Cambodia, you've entered Belize. What is a goal for AIM in the next, coming years?
Yeah, so our goal within Cambodia is to rescue at least 200 more girls this year. We'd like to get it closer to 250, and then obviously then provide that restoration and reintegration for them when they're old enough. We're also growing our school, so from 600 students, we want to double that capacity to 1,200. We're going to be offering kind of a double shift of morning classes and afternoon classes for kids, so that twice as many children can receive education and that prevention that happens with that, the outreach to those families that are part of this school. And then in Belize, we're launching the first restoration home for children, for young girls. So there is a restoration home, and there are restoration homes for older girls, but not yet for children. And so that's our goal in Belize, is to launch that restoration home in Belize for young girls.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I just have a couple other questions. I know I'm kind of drilling you, but
No, it's all good.
so number one, I got introduced to you from had Paul Moore on the podcast with me, and he introduced me to AIM and said that as a charity, as a nonprofit, your rating was extremely high. So sometimes people don't really look at some of that stuff. They like to give money, they want to help, but it seems like AIM is, you guys do have a lot of integrity, and so can you talk about that as far as AIM? And it sounds like you guys, I don't know, can you just talk about the rating, and if someone wants to get involved with AIM, where does their money go, I guess, is the bottom line.
Yeah. So great questions. About 85 to 90% of every dollar that's given goes directly to our work. The rest being, administrative and fundraising. So, again, close to 90%, which is great. I've, as you know, I've worked for a lot of different organizations and charities, and that 90%, which is our goal. Sometimes we're between 85 and 90. That is a goal for us because of how much we value, that transparency and the value of what people are giving to support our work. We really value that, and we want to be good stewards of that. And that's one of the things that really attracted me to AIM when I was, kicking the tires from the outside, is the financial transparency and the excellence around finances. So we've received a 4-star rating from Charity Navigator, and we've done that with a score of 100 out of 100, which we found out only 1% of charities actually achieve that rating. And we got that 4-star rating 4 years in a row, which is rare, I guess. Only, again, less than 10% of charities actually get that 4-star rating. So, outside independent organizations are seeing that transparency and that accountability and giving us good marks for that. And so that's important. Again, one, because that shows our community of donors, of partners, that we can be trusted, that we take our finances and accountability and stewardship seriously.
I love that. That's amazing. Do you have an impactful story? I'm sure you have a lot, but do you have one that just kind of comes to mind off the top of your head that, just any type of story that you've seen happen through AIM?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, which is the great, the great news, the stories of restoration and healing. These girls that are trafficked, abused, hundreds of times. They go through this journey, this process of restoration and healing. And, we have a saying in our family that hurt people, but healed people heal people.
Wow.
And so imagine what these girls go through, and the torture, the abuse, the rape, the enslavement, the captivity, to come out on the other side, not only healed, not only transformed, many of them accepting Christ through this journey. We never force, we never coerce anyone to accept Christ, but so many of them do because they've experienced this unconditional love, this safe place to heal for the very first time in their lives. And so one girl in particular I think of is Bella. She was trafficked. She was trafficked by her mom, and she was sold to be a house servant initially. Her mom thought that she was going to be going and working as a house servant in a home. This is in the northern part of Cambodia. Well, it turns out that woman was sexually trafficking Bella. Bella was rescued and went into our restoration home. And now Bella leads our team of social workers that do outreach.
Mm.
So in the northern part of Cambodia and Siem Reap, which is famous temples of Angkor Wat, it's a huge tourist destination. There's a lot of bars up there. And some of them, you go into a bar, you order a drink, and a girl will come and talk to you, and you can negotiate what happens next. Bella and her team go into these bars, and they'll sit, they'll buy a Coca-Cola or Sprite or whatever soft drink, and just sit and talk to these girls and do outreach to them and tell them that they don't have to be in this life. They can get out. When we have a job, we can offer them a job. And so it's a different sort of rescue, but it's that outreach. And Bella leads that team that goes into these bars and does that outreach.
Wow.
Once a girl who was trafficked herself is now helping to rescue other girls that were just like her.
Wow. No, I love that.
Yeah.
And I just wrote that down. Hurt people, healed people, heal people. And that's an amazing story with Bella. Thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate that. As we wrap up the show, I want to give you an opportunity just to where can someone find out information about AIM? And do you have any other resources?
Yeah, absolutely. aimfree.org is our main website. There's a bunch of resources on there. If you scroll down to the bottom, you click on resources, really easy to find. We've got a ton of videos. We've got resources for churches that want to do awareness around this. And then also aimcustom.org is a site where businesses and churches can go to order their gear, t-shirts, polos, things like that. Businesses can order this for their employees, for their events, for churches, for outreach, for, summer camps, things like that. It's a great way to, kind of dip your toe in the water of this. Who doesn't need t-shirts? And it's very affordable, good quality. They last a long time. I'm kind of a t-shirt snob myself. And I like a good quality t-shirt. This is another one here. Good quality t-shirts that last a long time, but they help tell a story. About what's going on. So yeah.
Awesome. Love that. We're going to put that in our show notes too, on our YouTube channel. So guys,
Thank
go
you.
check that out. Matt, I always like to end every podcast with a little fire round. So I prepared a few questions for you today. And so here we go. All right. Number one, I'm always curious because whenever I talk about human trafficking, sex trafficking, it's a very evil, dark thing, right? So you are in this every day, working at this, and you have this darkness, this evilness around you. So I want to ask you personally, how do you cope with some of this, just seeing this all the time?
Well, it's a good community, of friends, family, that, support, that pray. This is evil. It's spiritual warfare. We feel attacks all the time. Can't imagine what our staff on the ground in Cambodia, go through because they're in it every day. So appreciate prayers for them as well. But just being surrounded by a good community, being able to laugh. We talked earlier about, Christmas vacation. Just being able to laugh and experience joy. And then really just a strong relationship with God and really the Trinity with God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. And tapping into that every day. I spend a lot of time in the morning in quiet time, and prayer, just praying over, family, friends, community, but also over this work. It is a battle, and we've got to be armored up, and we've got to be prayerful about this. So
yeah, definitely. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right. What's something you love to do outside of this job, this mission?
So as I mentioned, I love the outdoors, love to snowboard and surf and hike. And my wife and I more and more are getting into wine tasting.
Nice.
You ever want to come visit, we'll take you wine tasting over in Sonoma, Napa.
You better watch out because I actually take people up on those types of things. So
do it.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right. Last one. This is one I commonly ask, but best book recently read?
It's a book called Spirit Speak. And it's a 100-day journey with the Holy Spirit. by the author. I can't think of his name right now, but anyway, Spirit Speak, 100-Day Journey with the Holy
Wow.
Spirit. And it's been revolutionary for me. And almost every single day, that's a 2 or 3 page every day, is speaking right to me, right where I'm at.
Mm.
And yet it was written, last year. So it's like, wow, how is that possible other than just the Holy Spirit?
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm gonna get that book. So I always ask that just for my own personal collection. So thank you, Matt, for that. Matt, this
Yeah.
is a wrap for the Brett Snodgrass podcast. Thank you so much for what you guys are doing at AIM. And guys, check out AIM, their website, aimfree.org. And also check out the t-shirt website, which is aimfree custom.
AIM Custom.
aimcustom.org.
aimcustom.org. Yeah.
So check that out. It's going to be in our show notes on our YouTube channel, guys. And Matt, it's been awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate you. Bless you.
Thank you so much for checking out the Brett Snodgrass channel. If you like this video, please slam on that like button. And if you really like it, then subscribe to our channel here. And remember to leave us a comment below, and I'm going to try my hardest to reply to all the comments. Thank you guys so much. This is why I do what I do. Every single week, I come out with content that focuses on success, freedom, and living out your purpose. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.